Hi, I'm Tapiwa at W.consulting, and I'm joined today by my colleague Bridget, also of W.consulting, and looking after our IFRS advisory business. So today we're going to be discussing, amongst other things, the poll results for the poll that we put out on IFRS 18. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the highlights of IFRS 18, connect that a little bit to the poll results. And then finally, we're going to talk about what can we do to help people along the journey of getting to grips with this new standard and understanding how to prepare for it. So welcome, Bridget, and I look forward to chatting with you about the poll results. So we put out the poll on IFRS 18. So IFRS 18, as you would know, if you're watching this video, participated in our poll, you would know that that's a new standard on presentation and disclosure in financial statements. And it replaced IS1, or is replacing IS1. And so our poll was just trying to find out how people have responded to the new standard. It was only published in April of this year. And so we were interested to see how quickly people had gotten on top of it, how comfortable they felt with it. And so we put out a poll to people who follow us and we're interested in the standard. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about what that poll told us. So if we just summarize in short, the poll had anything from, as potential responses, anything from haven't read it yet, and I don't think it affects me at all. I've read it, but I need a summary. I don't like to read very much. I appreciate a webinar or something on video. All the way to the final option was read the standard, 100% comfortable with it, and I'm ready to implement. So those were kind of the four options. So after that, the way I would characterize it is I'd say the middle two options are kind of saying, I know what's in the standard, but I need a little bit more to feel familiar with it. So 80%, effectively, 80% of the respondents said that they either needed a summary or they needed more video content to feel comfortable with what the standard has to say. So we'll talk a little bit later on about what we're going to do to respond to that. Very few people, 3%, said that it wouldn't affect them in any way, which is what I would expect. And then ultimately, we had about 20% that said they've completely read the standard, comfortable with it, and they're ready to go. So these are the people that are after our jobs, Bridget, because they're quickly off the mark. But those are the poll results. But maybe let me just allow you to reflect on that. Are you surprised by those results, or is it pretty much what you would have expected?
Given that it's close on a few weeks since the final standard was released, it's kind of where my expectations would have been. I would say I'm a little bit surprised at the 3% that were of the view that it doesn't affect them. I'm hoping that they are not financial statement preparers. But agreed, I suppose looking at it, it's a very small percentage. And I'm quite surprised, I suppose, that the percentage that was in the response group of that they're ready to implement. I suppose that's great for us. But yes, I suppose my expectation is that majority would be kind of aware that there has been this change, but they would require some more information.
That would also echo my own expectations, but it's always good to really hear how people feel and where they sit in the different areas. So if we just talk very briefly about IFRS 18 itself, it replaces IS1. When is it effective from?
It's effective for periods starting on or after 1 January 2027.
Okay, so in theory, people have a lot of time to get on top of it and kind of get comfortable with it. And what are some of the main things that it introduces that are different from IS1?
So there are three main areas of where there has been change. The one that's probably the most topical, I guess, is the changes which are being proposed to the statement of profit and loss. I suppose what we have seen in the years gone by is that entities are often defining or coming up with their own subtotals, which is reducing transparency and comparability, etc., between companies. So the amendments are introducing that there are now going to be specific subtotals which all preparers are now going to need to include in their statement of profit and loss. Then also there's now going to be the introduction of requirements around disclosures of management-defined performance measures. And then also some additional guidance around grouping of information. So what we're more familiar with, I guess, is aggregation and disaggregation. They've just given us a little bit more guidance in that area.
Okay, so if we talk about the changes to the profit and loss in particular, because I've seen that's, when I look at the online material that's out there, that's gotten a lot of attention, in terms of how the P&L is going to be, set out in terms of its geography. What are some of the themes that are there that people can kind of relate to immediately?
So, first of all, there's going to be, I suppose, a bit of a separation between how items are now going to be grouped in your statement of profit and loss, similar to what we've seen with regards to the cash flow statement around operating and investing and financing activity type income and expenditure. And then, as I said, the introduction of those new total lines. The expectation, I suppose, is that preparers in similar industries, etc., they should have similar manners in which they're then presenting that information. There will then also be improved comparability between entities that are now having that consistent profit line, which is now going to be included in all statement of profit and losses for all IFRS preparers.
Excellent. So that means one would be able to kind of almost relate the operating profit result to the operating cash flows in the cash flow statement and see, they're very different. You'd start asking intelligent questions about why the results aren't flowing in a predictable fashion.
Agreed. So the expectation is, as much as we can see that the focal point has been on the statement of profit and loss, yes, we are going to expect it, to see changes in the way in which we're able to analyze the information being presented in our financial statements.
Absolutely. So, Bridget, in our line of work, we deal with lots of corporates who are very sensitive about how their results are received by the marketplace. They don't want them to be misunderstood. And it's not unusual for management teams to come up with, kind of entity-specific measures of performance. And the driver behind that really is because they have a particular way that they understand their business and the drivers. And so this idea behind management-defined performance measures tell us, it's been happening, this. I can think of one company that has 7 measures of earnings per share driven by different, measures. And so tell us a little bit more about how that idea is now being captured in IFRS 18.
So Tapiwa, as you said, it's something that we see quite often when we look at companies' financial statements, and you see certain industries also do have their own types of ratios and metrics, etc., which they tend to include in their financials. The problem, I guess, that there has been up until now is that there isn't necessarily enough detail provided in a set of financial statements to give some context to a user as to why that measure is perhaps important, how it reconciles to other information, etc. So with the new disclosure requirements, we can include in a single note in a set of financial statements all of these management-defined performance measures and give some context and colour to them as to why they're important to management, how they were determined, how they can reconcile to other information presented in the financial statements.
Brilliant. And I guess by putting them into the body of the financials, if those financials in total are audited, it also means that the users now get management-defined information that's also audited.
Agreed.
Whereas before that wouldn't have been the case. So the last piece for me in terms of the change is this idea between aggregation, disaggregation. We've always had stuff around that. So I guess it's a change, but maybe not as big of a change as the other two that we've spoken about. And it occurred to me that, whilst those are the main changes, and a lot of what was in IFRS 1 is in IFRS 18, when you put all these things together and you now reinterpret them through the IFRS 18 lens, some of the things which actually haven't changed, when they're combined with things that have changed, is it fair to say that there could be some also unexpected changes in areas that we think are unimpacted?
Completely agree, Tapiwa, and I think that's what we would expect, I guess, when preparers start now taking into consideration the changes, that it may now result in there being, like you say, other unforeseen consequences, and possibly forcing an entity to take a step back and make sure that, it's still telling the appropriate or the correct story once they've then completed the compilation of their financial statements.
Yeah, it's the old adage that says, financial statements are a picture in totality. It's never just little pieces here and there. So I look forward to seeing how people are going to interpret and apply IFRS 18, but in order to respond specifically to the poll results where people said, look, give us summaries, give us videos, give us more material, what have you got planned in terms of responding to that?
So we have put together a one-pager cheat sheet which will just be a nice little go-to document which contains some summaries of the areas where we've seen some changes and what is the rationale behind that. So just a nice little go-to document that will be available on our website. And then also over the coming weeks, we will also prepare a webinar, which we will then obviously share the links and make available also to the public out there.
So to be clear, that cheat sheet is immediately available for download
yes.
as soon as we post this
Yes,
video,
that is
and the
available.
link will be available, and then folks can go and download that. Okay, so then look out for the webinar. We'll be putting out information on our website as well as on our LinkedIn page. So if you follow us, you'll get a notification when that is out. I really am looking forward to the webinar because I guess that's an opportunity where we can interact with different people, whether they're preparers, auditors, etc. And I'll be interested to hear what people's initial impressions are after standard. So Bridget, thank you so much for taking the time. This is a busy year for the ISB. So IFRS 18 is out, but there's also another standard that's out. Can you just tell us what that's quickly about and what you got planned for that as well?
Perfect. So the ISB has also recently issued IFRS 19, which is for subsidiaries who are preparing financial statements, but they do not have public accountability. So it allows for these subsidiary entities where they may have a requirement from a group perspective to comply with the requirements of IFRS to enable them to elect to apply this IFRS 19 standard, which can then allow for them to have less cumbersome or burdensome disclosures in their set of financial statements. So it will be a standard which we think will also have quite a significant impact on a number of preparers who almost feel that they're being forced, I suppose, to apply the IFRS reporting framework.
Fantastic. So we'll no doubt prepare some kind of engagement around IFRS 19. So again, please follow our page to kind of understand what are those changes and the material that we'll put out to help people understand very quickly how they can take advantage of this. Thank you so much, Bridget, and we look forward to seeing you in the webinar series.
Perfect. Thank you, Tapiwa.
Thanks, folks. Take care.